And now we get to issue 244, the issue that was ruined by a lawsuit. We start out with Knuckles and Albion asking why he can't find anyone, seeing a flash of light at one point. Then earlier, we see Thrash saying that warp rings are untraceable, and if someone hops through, they won't have to worry about anything ever again. And we don't see the people he's talking to because censorship. Meanwhile, Knuckles sees the lights again and ends up running up to one of Thrash's mutts, who T-Pup is barking at in front of Tornado 2. Then we got to hours ago, where Tails is saying stuff to T-Pup he clearly didn't say last time we saw him with them, telling him to seal up the gashes in the plane and synthesize some fuel in a paraphrase. Knuckles shows the soft side by petting T-Pup and asks it to come with them. Then they go up to unconscious Sonic and Tails, who are being threatened by one of Thrash's no doubt Cyber Guy's pets since they have glowing eyes and all. There's never any sort of explanation for why they have glowing eyes. They're just evil looking. Sonic, Tails, and Amy wake up all groggy, and we see Metal Knuckles collapse on the ground. Knuckles notes that SPO's been keeping tabs in the Nanite City. We're never going to see him in there, though. And Sonic insults Knuckles for not getting here to save his people sooner. It's explained that they were all knocked out by electricity traps. Knuckles asks where the echidnas fighting alongside them went. Then we see that Thrash had felt compassion for the hero, saying that echidnas do nothing but make people suffer, even though they only fought with a few races. And he was the one who moved them. Knuckles says that while refugees were heading for the docks, now they're empty. Knuckles starts trying to use T-Pup to contact Angel Island, remembering that he had insisted to Julie Sue that he could fix up Haven by himself, even though Julie Sue has been shown to have hacking powers, so she should have been the one doing it, and was telling two people to guard the Emerald for him. You'd think he'd never tell people to do that again, considering when he trusted Locke to guard the Emerald, terrible things happened. But whatever. Can't build a guard robot or anything. He says to patch him through to Nicole since she would have spoken to his teammates last. Nicole says that she couldn't reach anyone on the island, but he left before she could warn him. She wonders if Leonidas intercepted the signal first and went ahead of him. Knuckles says that couldn't be true, purely because Vector and him have the only warp rings. Even though Finitivis made warp rings, you'd think the Dark Legion would be able to make them too. Knuckles says that if Finitivis was the cause of all this, why would he leave Sonic alone? They asked who else has a warp ring, and we cut to Thrash warping to Angel Island days ago with his devil dogs and finding some notes on Albion and Haven that were conveniently there for him, just to arbitrarily finagle him going there. Didn't he already learn about Albion last time we saw him? Anyways, he also learns about how to supercharge a warp ring. It sure is convenient for him that there were notes on that, and he just happened to find them. Why would they be kept around? Wouldn't the only people who could benefit from them be people who already know this by heart? And we see Thrash saying, and that's the last of them. And Knuckles shows up with the others. You know, Knuckles used to be such a great guardian, Knuckles comic and stuff. And now look at what Flynn reduced him to. We got him giving up guarding the Emerald to his father, who trusts Finitivis of all people with it. Albion got attacked by Finitivis, making echidnas. We saw the Enerjack incident, sending all the echidnas to Albion away from the Emerald, so he has to choose what to guard. And because he can't just put the Emerald in Albion, and is irrationally ashamed when he was just brainwashed by Finitivis, he chooses not to guard Albion with the Emerald in it, because that would be different from the game. And so this happens. All because Knuckles won't let an island fall from the sky when it did in the SA1 adaptation and no one there died. They made Knuckles go from the best guardian ever to the absolute worst, most incompetent guardian in all history, all in one change of writers. This is what our effective hero has been reduced to. And no, him being the best guardian ever isn't just a stupid Pender's overpowered thing, because I expect that of him no matter what writer is in charge, no matter what comic this is. This is when we see Thrash happily boast about getting rid of all the echidnas, saying they got rid of those girls and Knuckles put the Master Emerald, and that helped them get rid of all the echidnas in Albion. Knuckles furiously tackles Thrash, saying, "Bring them back! Bring them back! Now!" Thrash roars to get Knuckles off him. He insists that because he's a good person, he won't just kill Knuckles, even though he's clearly not a good person after what he just did. And Sonic says that after all this waiting to let Knuckles get the first hit in, he'll fight with him to get him to bring back his kind. Because fighting with him will magically brainwash him into deciding to do that. After we see a Kretsu bind, which reaches a button, Thrash roars at Sonic, and then we see Metal Knuckles revive thanks to the Kretsu plant covering it. I don't see why that would revive him. Well, I guess it filled in all of the gashes and holes, but robots are made of metal specifically for a good reason. This issue is by Ian Flynn. It was about Thrash happily getting rid of all the echidnas on Albion just like that using his warp ring, because he wants to make the comics more like the games. And I mean, because Thrash's races against echidnas. When I first read this issue, I didn't realize that it happened because of the Penders lawsuit happening, like, way before the reboot actually happened. I thought the lawsuit and getting rid of all the character stuff would only happen when the reboot started. But when I first read the story, I assumed that it was Flynn just continuing his pattern that he already had started, with Albion's echidnas being decimated. He already tried to make echidnas rarer once, so I thought he was just gladly continuing that to make things even more like the games. Like, the echidnas were already completely out of focus on Albion, so wasn't that enough? Couldn't Ian have just been satisfied with that? With never showing them again? I mean, he got away with not showing us Julie, Sue, and Saffron and the echidnas in this issue, while still clearly using them as characters because they were involved in the plot by being kidnapped. At least this was foreshadowed, but Thrash didn't need to exist, and finding those random notes that further his plan felt like a Diabolos ex machina, because why would those notes be kept around? And he was already told about Albion a long time ago, so why did it take this long to do all of this in one day? Couldn't he just keep warping around the world with warp rings until he eventually would find some echidnas? Why the hell couldn't Knuckles have said to Thrash back then, "You can't take the warp ring, what if one of the heroes needs it?" Instead of trusting some random dude with such a powerful artifact. The sheer fact that this happened at all makes the whole concept forced, because it's not like Thrash stole the warp ring, which it could have easily been written to do. He was artificially allowed to keep it. Like, it is the fault of Penders and his lawsuit over character rights for the echidnas being taken away, but it was Flynn who wrote this. Penders wouldn't have ever written this story, and I really don't see why they'd have to do this instead of just never showing us Albion again, which the comic was already doing up to this point. I mean, the comic gets away with a lot. It doesn't have the right to Eggman Nega, but it still uses him because it's Dr. Nega, who's a character threatening the multiverse, for example.